Welcome to Live Well, Dream Big. I'm Suzanne Monroe, founder of the International Association of Wellness Professionals, where I've been teaching people how to live a life of wellness, tap into their passion, and go for their dreams for over 15 years. I believe living well and dreaming big starts with ourselves. This podcast will show you how to create a healthy, holistic life, empower your mindset, follow your dreams, and make a big impact. Let's dive in right now. Welcome back to Live Well, Dream Big. I'm your host, Suzanne Monroe, and I'm really excited for today's episode where I'm talking with Amy Leigh Mercree, who is a medical intuitive, an energy healer, a holistic health expert, a media personality, and also the author of over 15 books. And we're getting into it all today. I promised you I'd bring you some more juicy conversations on the podcast. And we're talking about chakras and crystals and essential oils and energy healing. And so this is a really fun episode for you, whether you love all this stuff or you're a little bit of a skeptic, right? We even answer the question about being a skeptic. And this is a great opportunity to just dip your toe in the water. So join us for this fun discussion. And by the way, don't forget to leave us a review on Live Well, Dream Big, wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, let's get started. I am very excited to be here with you today for another episode. Today, joining us on the podcast is Amy Leigh Mercree. Now, Amy is a best-selling author of 15 books, a media personality, a holistic health expert, and medical intuitive. She has 20 years of experience and teaches internationally, sharing her Medicine Woman Bootcamp, Meet Your Guides, Goddess Shamanism, mindfulness, meditation classes, and more. She's also been featured in Glamour Magazine, Women's Health, Inc. Magazine, Shape, Poosh, The Huffington Post, Your Tangle, Soul and Spirit Magazine, Mind Body Green, CBS, NBC, Hello Giggles, Reader's Digest, Oprah.com, and in many other places. And she's also has been an internationally acclaimed medical intuitive for over 20 years and has helped really thousands of people find the root cause of numerous mild and moderate medical conditions and really uncover their body's wisdom to heal permanently. So welcome, Amy.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone in your community and all your coaches.
Well, thank you, Amy, for coming on. And I just want to share with everybody, I first came across Amy because we were both interviewed for Oprah Magazine for this article that was called "What are healing crystals and do they actually work?" Now, this was several years ago, and it's still a very popular article out there.
Yes,
it still
it is.
Comes up right away, and people actually still. I had a family member who said, "Hey, I saw you in this article." People still are finding this article. It's a very, it's a great article. But at the time, I thought, okay, I'm going to see what Amy is up to because. She had some great things to say in that article. We'll put the link in the show notes. But she had written 15 books in the holistic wellness, spirituality, and energy healing space. And that's, first of all, congrats. That's amazing. How did you come to write so many books on just so many powerful topics?
Well, thank you for the congratulations. And the 16th book, The Healing Home, a room-by-room guide to positive vibes, comes out August 9th. So depending upon when your coaches in your community hears this, hopefully it'll be out and it is available even now. So the 16th book is coming out, The Healing Home. So I came to write my books after having worked as a medical intuitive for about 10 years. And at that point, I was fortunate enough to connect with my literary agent and start that process. And my first book was The Spiritual Girl's Guide to Dating: An Enlightened Path to Love, Sex, and Soulmates, which was written because I was getting a lot of questions about romance at that time. So many of the subsequent books are things that I wanted to share with a wider audience and, people who might become clients but didn't quite make it to me yet. And so information I thought would help them. The article we were both in, I was promoting the mood book for that one. And that has a big crystal component. And that's why we got to talk about crystals. So there's essential oils, apple cider vinegar, meditation, mindfulness. I have many books on all kinds of topics. But it all stems from my medical intuitive work.
Okay, that's so exciting. And I have your new book on pre-order. I'm very excited to read that. And we'll talk. I want to talk about The Healing Home a little bit later. But before we do, I'd love to hear a little bit more just about your story because, you share that even before you wrote all the books, kind of how you got to where you are today, because you share your body was breaking down. I mean, you felt terrible. You say your reproductive system was a mess. Your skin was a mess. Like everything was a mess. And you were kind of left wondering, okay, what is happening to me? What is my body actually doing to me? Like, take us back a little bit to before you got into this, and like what happened and how did you get to where you are today?
Sure. It honestly started when I was a child. So as a child, I was intuitive and I saw things outside, and I had severe learning disabilities. So, I struggled quite a bit. I mean, I had pros and cons, and I was fortunate enough to have a great family. And even then I was struggling with digestive issues, not really understanding what was going on. Then as I came into young adulthood, I came to have these, tough reproductive issues, skin issues, things like that, and trying to, find solutions to that. I happened to synchronistically end up in a shamanism class where one of the women that I partnered with, because we worked in partners, which we do now in my shamanism classes. I've been teaching shamanism for 20 years. She connected me with someone around karmic healing and recommended this woman, Lori, who ended up becoming my medicine teacher. Lori's on the other side now, but so she was taught an oral tradition that was passed down from American Indians in the southwestern United States. And they passed it to Lori's teacher to expand and widen the range of those teachings. Then I got a really strong background in energy, the way that we can work with energy safely, and a lot of the shamanic aspects. Then at 23, I started working as a medical intuitive at that point, and now it's 21 years later.
For those who don't know what a medical intuitive is, and frankly, I'd love to hear more about this as well as I think about you saying that, what exactly is that? Or just tell us a little bit more about like what your role is through that.
It's a good question, and I think it's probably different for everybody, so I can't speak for other people who do work that they call medical intuition. But for me, it is to find the very ultimate root cause of something. And I've always had, as a kid, I used to call it atomic vision, because I would see like nature spirits. I used to call them nature sparkles and things like that as a kid when I was outside. So I would always see things that were perhaps on the microscopic level. So it's been a transition absolutely over time to understand what it all is. But, somebody comes in with, let's say, tinnitus is like a big thing I get a lot of, because a lot of people have tinnitus. And it's one of those things that I think the medical community doesn't have a great answer for. It's usually steroids, and it's not always particularly effective. So people want to find the root cause of their tinnitus. It's different for everybody. There are some commonalities, but I use a lot of traditional Chinese medicine. So I'm shown, though, what's happening in the body. And really what I do is talk to people's spirit guides. That's like the simplest definition. But I also look on a quantum level and see, okay, so these cells in this part of the body, their membranes are incorrectly ionized, and so they're not passing electrolytes through this membrane, and then the nerve synapse, it has an interrupted frequency, and so the electricity that's supposed to move through the nervous system can't do it. And then we reverse engineer from where we want to be back to where we are, so we figure out what to do about it. So that's kind of a nutshell. I know it's sort of like a hard thing to explain because it's a little bit abstract, and every case is so different. Every root cause is different. I'm writing a book about this now, and it's got hundreds of case studies, because I'm finding there's absolutely commonalities over 20 years of working with people, but everybody is incredibly different. And the way one person's ancestral pattern affects, let's say, their thyroid, somebody else with a different body in the same ancestral pattern would have a different result. So it's very individual, but I think hopefully that gives you an idea what it's I
find it fascinating, like someone like yourself, that you see things, like you said, on this microscopic level. I mean, not everybody can say that's something they can do, right? It feels like a very special talent, but you talked about how when you were a child, that was something that was happening to you. Did you at the time, like, did your parents like say, oh yeah, that's normal? Or did you like, what happened to you as a kid? Like, how did you realize, hey, this is kind of a special gift that I have?
I think a time came when I realized everybody else didn't see that. For a long time, I just assumed everybody did. I'm so sorry. There's some kind of a loud siren. I hope it's not coming through to you guys, but okay, good. So I think, a time arose probably later in grade school when I realized that. My parents were very accepting. My family was accepting. My mom lovingly and in a really supportive way used to kind of say that I was eccentric, and having learning disabilities I already felt different and things were already landing differently. A lot of people come in, I think, and they're nice and grounded in their bodies and they expand into their intuition. For me, my intuition was open, but I was completely ungrounded. I was not in my body. The learning disability issue, the coordination factor, I used to say I didn't quote unquote get my coordination until junior year of high school, which means like just normal physical coordination that, a middle schooler would have. I used to run into stuff. I definitely wasn't sporty or anything like that. And those were learning disabilities. So I wasn't in my body, which did give me that expanded view. I think my dad was awesome. He was working, so my mom was there more. I think, she understood about the learning disabilities and she was very supportive. I don't think she knew what I was seeing, but I didn't really know to call it anything either. Like for a long time, I assumed everybody saw these things when they went outside. Everybody saw what was around the trees, like the energy of the trees. I assumed everybody saw that. When I started to realize that they did, I'm sure I discussed it with my brother because we'd be outside digging a lot. We did a lot of like digging it was back in the 80s. So there wasn't like water conservation discussion. So we used to turn the hose faucet on the wall of the house on, and then we'd make a stream, like we'd, meld the land. That was a place where I saw a lot of spirits. I didn't really know. It was just the energy of nature. Yeah. I'm assuming I talked to my brother about it, but we were like playing with the G.I. Joes and the Star Wars guys too. So they were just mixed in for me. So I felt very accepted, and a time came when I realized maybe everybody wasn't noticing that. And so I didn't really talk about it anymore. And if I ever did. And then I got, distracted by like Debbie Gibson in middle school and whatever. If you're an 80s, anyone who's around the 80s.
We're about the same age then.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Martika.
Yeah.
We like, and Friends and all that. And then high school, you're being high schoolish. So that was all still there, but it just became less important. And then when I was 18 and I met my teacher, right around that same time, I was having those health issues. So it motivated me to try to understand the bodily side as well.
Do you feel like, so this is something like it was happening to you, it was something that was special for you. Luckily your parents were like, hey, this is, they were there to support.
Exactly.
Do you feel everyone has these gifts within them, or is it something that only certain people have? Like in our community, we have a lot of, there's all different people who are listening to the podcast, right? Those who are just beginning their wellness journey. Others are been on it for a while. We have coaches in our community that are guiding and helping people. And my sense is that some of them have these intuitive gifts as well. Not everyone, but I mean, what is your feeling on that?
I think everybody has that ability. Everybody has intuition. Everybody has the ability. Some people are born where they can just pick up a guitar and start playing. They don't need any lessons. Some people might need lessons for certain parts of guitar, but they would do great in an art class. So people have different propensities. I think everybody absolutely has the exact same ability that I do. Absolutely. For me, it was about getting more in my body and embodied and grounded so I could be making waves in the world. That was kind of the path for me. Somebody else might come in. Well, a good friend of mine, actually, who's very grounded, very embodied, has a lot of stamina, and is coming into these tendencies, which were always under the surface, in her 30s in that particular case. So I think everybody absolutely has these abilities. Intuition is normal. Being psychic is normal. The interconnection between all living beings, including stones and the earth. And, I think of everything as alive. So not just plants and animals. That interconnection is always there. And everybody has the ability to feel that as well.
That's so interesting. Now you mentioned the elements of the earth and stones, which kind of brings me back to the Oprah magazine article for a minute. I have to say, when I was asked to be interviewed for that, I was kind of surprised because at the time I had very little experience with crystals compared to someone like yourself who this is like in your toolkit, part of your life's work, right? But what I was able to share was really coming from the experience that I noticed a lot of people in my community having, that is, they couldn't necessarily measure their experiences scientifically. They didn't necessarily have data or whatever to back up their practices, but they had these personal experiences and feelings, and they were powerfully impacted in some way, right? And I was starting to notice that as well. And so what I said in the interview is hey, if crystals influence how you feel about yourself or the world around you, isn't that powerful enough? Right? We're always looking for we must prove this or whatever. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as you kind of, if you think a little bit about that. How do you believe crystals actually work and actually impact people? To a lot of people, they're just pretty rocks, but what's your take on it?
I think everything's alive. I don't really qualify myself as any religion or philosophy. I think it's kind of a Taoist view of things, though, that everything is alive. And so, whether it's even an inanimate object that isn't made of a natural substance, has a certain amount of life force in it, whether it's really there from, an earth-derived substance, be it physical, rock or plant or animal, or through just innately being in this dualistic framework. So from that standpoint of thinking everything is alive, and by the way, having this figure of the laughing Buddha, the Po Tai, having that symbol depicted, even though this is a resin, it's not exactly plastic, but it's not metal or anything. It's not derived from the earth. So I have this view that everything is alive. Now, when we go to the realm of crystals, they did come from the earth. And so I feel like they, even more to me, they are living beings. I always have chapters in any of the books that talk about crystals, especially the Mood book has a lot about it. I think some of the others do too. I say kind of a cute way of saying it is crystals are people too. So these are living beings. Personally, I feel badly keeping them cooped up inside. I prefer to at least have them in the sun and the moon and the rain, outdoors, ideally on the earth, because to me, they've been taken out of their environment, not really necessarily having a choice. And so let's at least put them where they're comfortable. And then also that keeps them from holding dense energy. So when we do work with them, then they have a good high vibrational frequency. I like to use rose quartz. It's just a really easy light crystal. I keep it outdoors. I might go out with it. I might bring it in for a short period of time, and then I personally put everything back outside. That's my take on it. That is not the popular take with crystals. So take it with, take what resonates, leave the rest. But I feel a responsibility that these are living beings. And just like we would want to make sure a plant gets plenty of sun and light and a dog gets to go outside and things like that, I think the crystals need to at least get to be as close to the earth and the elements as possible.
That's so interesting. And I know in the article too, you talked about how they're just kind of I think you said it's a fun and unique way to influence your energy when it's used with the right intention. Tell us a little bit more about that. Do you have to use an intention for it to support you in some way, or break it down a little bit there?
I think anything done with intention has more power. So, people are like put crystals in their bra. Like that's like a trendy thing now. And I actually kind of like that with certain rose quartz. That can be nice to have that, in front of that center of the chest area. So if you did that with an intention for whatever that might be, protection or feeling more love or raising your frequency, if you had something in mind, whether it's a crystal or an action you take or whatever it is, using intention, I think, takes everything to the next level. Now, if you didn't, or if you just had the quick intention of not even putting it into words, but like, I'm just going to put this piece of smoky quartz, in my clothing or in my pocket or whatever for the day to help my field, that's an intention too. Even if you didn't, formally say, I now am intending this, there still can be intention behind things too.
Hmm. I got to share, I started a crystal grid, which I'm personally still learning about, but basically it's a special arrangement kind of a group of crystals that you choose that maybe have different properties or whatever. And then you set this intention and you're like kind of holding this space. And I have no idea how it works. Amy, I'm sure you can enlighten me, but I liked what I found is like, I like to bring physical rituals to really support my intentions, right? Versus just saying, here's my intention, or like, here's my vision, which is what I used to always do. But what I've noticed is it kind of helps me get out of my head and more into my heart. So it's just been really kind of a fun way to do it. And it's the practice of having that intention held in a space kind of for an ongoing time period. Yeah. I think that's really, really powerful. Like, what do you think of crystal grids, or like, what was your experience?
I love crystal grids, and I think they hold a lot of intention. So I think that that's part of why, and it's multiple stones laid in whatever format you're choosing with a strong intention, and then focusing. I think that's part of the point of any crystal grid, is to focus the power and focus the intention. So I love it. Personally, to me too, if it depends on the layout of your home, but if it can be in a sunny spot, in a moonlit spot, in a place where it gets natural light, I feel like that gives it even more chi as well. And you can intend for that energy to focus into whatever your intention is. And if it can't be in that, then you can sort of envision the, universal life force, sunlight, moonlight, all different energy that's focusing into the grid and into the intention you set. That's what I think crystal grids do. I think they're a really effective way to use crystals too.
That's so interesting. I love what you shared there. And I can't wait, because I think this relates to the healing home, which I want to talk about. But let me ask you this though, because given all of your experience with energetic healing techniques and all the work you've done over the last 2 decades, really, whether it's crystals or chakras or mindfulness or essential oils or anything else, how do you explain like how this all works to someone who is not so sure? Because I think, some of our listeners are listening in, they're like, yeah, this is a fun conversation right now. And others are probably skeptical. What would you say to that?
I would say that's okay too. I mean, I think this kind of, there's a huge field of like sort of trends right now in wellness. And I started doing this work over 20 years ago, and it wasn't trendy then. And we didn't have social media then, by the way. So nothing was quite as trendy as it is now either. But, I think it's okay if it doesn't resonate. And there may be certain parts that resonate. Some people resonate strongly with the science of mindfulness, the science of proven benefits of meditation, or yoga nidra, or things like that, which is, yogic sleep, a type of meditation. Different, it's not exactly, but similar. Some people really resonate with that. Some people resonate with, the scientific findings around different plant medicines and different herbs and how they help. And maybe that's the starting point. Other people like the fun side of it. They want to decorate their house using feng shui and other healing home methods. Some people like jewelry, so then that makes them like crystals. I think it's okay. I don't think anyone has to be convinced. I think when the right thing lines up, then you might feel drawn, and otherwise it's not a race to convince the world to do all these things. There's just an array of tools, and these arrays of tools have existed way back into history. I mean, the Vedas were written 13,000 years ago, I think. One of the first recorded spiritual texts, for example. There have been tools, and they've been different. There's been, for example, with the Vedas, there's been many iterations of the chakra system, not just the one we hear about today on Instagram because it's trendy or whatever. So I think it's okay. And it's just seeing what lands and where. I think a lot of people, a kind of gateway is essential oils because they work. And if you end up using therapeutic grade essential oils, you discover, wow, these really work. And they've helped with a lot of different things, or the smell has uplifted my mood and helped the harmony in the home. That's one of the gateways into this stuff, I think, is oils.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
And they're trendy.
You kind of talk about this idea. You said there's just an array of tools, right? And it's kind of landing on what speaks to you and what works for you. And yet, like you said, some people have maybe more of a scientific approach. Others kind of want this more sensory approach, maybe. Mm-hmm. Here's a question for you. Can a religious person still use energetic tools like crystals and other things that are more in the alternative, holistic, spiritual space? Because I think right now, we kind of see an either or mentality, and it's really not just with this, right? It's pretty much with everything in the world right now. I don't care what the topic is. It's there's these sort of polarizing views. And I thought about it before we jumped on today for this conversation. I'm like, wow, that's kind of true in this space too, right? It's either you're following kind of more of a set religion and it has certain practices, or you're kind of maybe more in what has been called the new age space or alternative healing spirituality space. What are your thoughts? Can you do both?
I think anyone can do whatever they want, and any rules or dogma are self-imposed. So absolutely. And it's interesting because talking about oils, I've connected with lots of clients who've entered this kind of space through oils and alternative health. And they do have some strong religious beliefs, and it seems to go okay to have those mix. That seems to resonate for them. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just a proponent of everybody believing what they want and just having, the ability to do that without imposing it on each other. Yeah. And I mean, absolutely. I think from my perspective, there's no restriction on that. I mean, it would depend on whatever mental framework somebody's coming from, but I think they're actually, in a lot of cases, pretty complementary.
That's interesting. Yeah. It's finding that one thing that's maybe your thing, and that either just keeps you there or you open up to different things. And, I love how you're kind of positioning that. So let's talk about the healing home, because this is kind of interesting, right? With your new book coming out. Like I said, I have it on pre-order. We'll put the link below.
I'm so excited. I have my little printout. So I still don't have copies.
Okay, well, let's just say that. Do you get still excited now that you're writing your 16th book?
I do. This book is really pretty too. I've got the the digital file where you can see all the pages. Mm-hmm. It's a hardcover book. It's a 4-color book, actually kind of how the mood book is, which it's hard. You can't really tell on the video, but so it's a really pretty book. It was a fun book to write. I do get excited. I get excited when people, Instagram it. So I'm like, oh my gosh, they're reading it. And they're saying, how they're using whatever in one of the books. I get excited when I see it in stores too, like Barnes and Noble, it'll usually be in there. Target, when books are in Target, that's really exciting because it's it's not every book gets in there.
Reaching the masses.
Yeah. When I see them in stores, a lot of times they'll be in Francesca's and Urban Outfitters and stuff. So sometimes you're in the store. It's pretty neat when I'm in a store and it's oh, there's my book. Or a friend will be like, hey, I'm in a crystal shop in Sedona. Look what's in here, and send me a picture that some of my books are there. So it's I still get excited. Yeah.
Well, I know you're reaching a lot of people in a lot of different ways with your books, which I think is so cool. And, we've kind of been talking about, okay, we've talked a little bit about crystals and oils and just these different healing modalities. Say a little bit more about the book, because can our homes actually be healing or impact our health? Like, I'm very curious to read the book and hear about this.
That's why I wrote The Healing Home, because it actually came about from my medical intuitive clients. Because a lot of times I work a lot with elements of traditional Chinese medicine, and it really depends what is being shown to me for the particular person, and everybody is so diverse. But so I work with, for example, elements of traditional Chinese medicine. So in a lot of cases, it strengthens the healing if we not only have it begin, the body is the first projector and it projects our reality out. So whatever's happening in the body projects out. The next layer out is the home, because we spend the most time there. So then if we optimize the energy of the home, especially in traditional Chinese medicine, there are 5 elements. And so the different organs of the body and meridians and areas of the body and concerns are associated with certain elements. And so then in feng shui, which is the Taoist way of organizing and arranging your home, it is laid out by the 5 elements in a specific way, what we call the bagua. So if we optimize the areas of the home that are associated with the organs that we're working with on a health level, then we take that healing to the next level. So we fix the first projector, the first level of projector, then it comes out to the next level. And when we work on it there, because it's externalized but still close, it helps take the frequency, if you want to say, of the energy that we're projecting out and that's creating our world, and tune it and tweak it so we can reach our heart's desires, our goals, and have things happen in our external life. So working with the home strengthens everything outside of the home. It also does backflow into the self as well. So it makes the frequency more strong and sort of coherent, and the vibration and the frequency of what you want to project and create in your life gets clearer.
I love that, because I know you say about the book that everyone wants a home that fills them with this all-encompassing feeling of peace, a home that fills the soul with clarity, energy, love, and safety, and supports our perfect experience here on earth, which I love that. But Amy, it's funny because we typically think about decorating our home or making it look a certain way, right? Or, frankly, just trying to keep it organized if you have kids.
Right.
That's me. But you say it can support our perfect experience here on earth. What do you mean by that? How does the home do that?
So it can support our goals. It can support our health. It can support especially our rest, which I think is just an increasingly important issue. And we see a lot about sleep, in the trendy land or whatever. But I think that's because so many people have disturbed sleep because of devices in our face, giving this blue light that we wouldn't have been exposed to. So, we can, by optimizing the energy of the home, we can have results come up in our lives. So the Healing Home room by room guide to positive vibes is laid out room by room. It's meant to be easy to use, so you can choose an area and, start there and not get overwhelmed. But what it does is take you through all the things you could do and why you might want to do that. So for your love life, we would be talking about the bedroom, for example, and all of your relationships to some degree. And we would use intention, and then you have everything in there from aromatherapy spritz recipes you can make, what essential oils to use in that area, crystals, houseplants, types of flowers, all of those things, the chakras that are associated with the area. So that's the Vedic portion, the bagua, the feng shui that you would use in the bedroom, and also what area of the layout of your house is in support of relationships and love. So it's a dual kind of a thing in that case. And then also talking about the yin and the yang elements of a room. So for example, in the bedroom, we want romance, of course, and we want sleep. So gives you all of the reasons why you would take that into a more yin space, because yin is the ultimate sleep is the ultimate yin activity. So you would make it more yin by using soft and fuzzy blankets, pillows, things that are cozy, softer colors, softer lighting, certain finishes, certain elements of design and decor that could be used to create a space that makes those intentions come to life. So that's why we work with the home. And then we also have, along with the Vedic and the Taoist elements in the book, we have the information and cross-cultural shamanic information and shamanic information from my medicine teacher in the oral tradition in which I was trained. And so we have tons and tons of shamanic rituals and processes to fill the home with everything from abundance energy to love energy, to clear the energy of the home, things to make sure that when you have guests in the home, the energy is only positive, things to draw wealth into the home, things to bring good fortune into the home, things to draw opportunities into the home, everything you can think of. You'll see when you get your copy. This book is full. It's very fun. It's entertaining. It's meant to be easy, but it is just like full of info. So you can take it in a digestible way and go room by room. And you can do that from the standpoint of like just going in order. We start with the front door, the foyer, if you have a foyer. Otherwise, what we need to do for the front door to let energy come into the home and enliven the home. Or you can say, I really want to deal with my love life. It needs help. Or my home office, because I got to kick butt in my career. Then you can start in those places. And this book is meant to help you elevate the frequency of the place you spend the most time, your home, most likely, and then to support you and your goals through that process.
And for those who are like, okay, I'm kind of new to feng shui or just some of these ideas, like, did you like do this to your home and like saw something happen? Or I'm sure, I mean, you've helped so many people with this, but I'm just curious, like what is sort of like a direct impact? Like you would notice if you say, okay, I'm just going to work on my foyer or my bedroom or my whole house.
I have done it to my home for many years and seen tons of results. And then with clients too, and in conjunction with their health issues. A pretty interesting result was I did a ritual with a practitioner who was helping me years back. And I had an intention. I think we kind of said we wanted to bring new energy into the home. And I was doing that for prosperity a long time ago. So we did this thing and rang this bell and, did this whole thing. And I think we did something 9 times. We rang the bell 9 times for it. 9 is like the power number in Taoism. A couple of nights later, and I was home alone. My ex-husband was out of town. I heard this huge crash at 4 a.m. I thought someone broke in to the house. I called the police. I hid in the bathroom. The 911 person was like, okay, talking you through. Okay, the police are here. Now they're knocking the door. Go let them in. They've secured the area. Like really, like what? I mean, it was loud. They were very nice. So they came in. They shined I was like, I'm so sorry. Is somebody here? Because I really saw it. Like it sounded like somebody threw a brick through the glass slider on the patio. And they said, no, it's okay. You did the right thing. Look, they shined their flashlights onto the patio. The ceiling fan in the prosperity area fell and shattered an 8-person glass table. Oh, I mean, it was crazy. That was when I shattered my own glass ceiling. And within 2-3 months, I had tripled my income.
Wow.
But I mean, at the time it was like scary.
Yeah.
I thought someone broke in and they were really nice. I was like, I'm so sorry. Yeah. And they said, no, you did the right thing. That would have, of course, that would have sounded like that. Yeah. It's okay. I was like shaking after they left. Yeah. And after they left, I called my friend who was in a different time zone because she was awake. I was like, oh my God, I got a nosebleed from it. Like, I think from the stress of it, like I had a little nosebleed.
Well, and at the time you were already, this was already all your world. Well, this has been your life's work. So you're like, wow, you're making this connection.
But I made the connection after.
Yeah.
Yes.
But how many times are things happening in our lives where maybe we're not consciously aware of these connections? But I do think the few times that things like that have happened in my life, it is very powerful. And you stop and you pause and you say, wow, and you make that connection. So I love that, not that it happened to you, but that it was.
Well, I love that it happened.
Yeah.
Because the energy in that area had to break. And glass. So the backstory on that is glass is synonymous with the water element. So that is the element that you put in the prosperity area is water and glass. 8 is the number. So is this eight chairs around an 8-person large glass table? I mean, it shattered. It had to move. The energy had to move. It was stuck. It shattered it. And it changed like drastically. So
that's amazing. Is there one thing, like, for people listening today, like if they're like, okay, I'm going to get the book, but this is like very detailed. Don't be afraid.
That is an uncommon
They're like, okay, I'm not
result,
so sure I want a crashing chandelier. Yeah.
I'm the only one that I know that's happened to. Okay. So don't be worried about that.
You were prepared for it. So that's good.
Well, is there? Yeah. And I was going to write about it,
Is there like one simple thing that people could do to say, hey, I'm either I can't take all this on right now, or I am a little bit scared, like what's going to happen? Or I'm a skeptic. Like, what's one thing that everyone could try to say, all right, I want to make my home a more healing space and just kind of sink into it and play with it and not be like totally judgmental about it or just like open up to the possibilities. Like, what would you say that one thing is?
I would say it would be to do a little ritual with a red colored spice like cinnamon for abundance. Start out on whatever is the road. So it could be the end of your driveway. It could be if you live like in an apartment complex with stairs, it could be out, in the middle of the road and then sprinkling just a little bit of the spice. It doesn't have to actually show, but something red. It's a power color in Taoism. Sprinkling it all the way like up the stairs or up the driveway, up the path, and repeating what you want to bring into the home. So your intention. So it might be, money flows into the home with ease, and abundance, love, and success flow into my home every day, and I expand every day and inspire others to do the same, something like that. And you sprinkle it all the way in. You keep repeating the intention. It could be in your mind. You can clandestinely be sprinkling if there's neighbors. And then you just bring it all the way up and over the threshold. And you're repeating your intention. And then you say, after you get over the threshold, little sprinkle, it is done. And then you've shown the energy of opportunity how to find you and have it come into the home.
And something everyone has in their spice cabinet, cinnamon.
Cinnamon, you could use paprika, you could use cayenne pepper, any reddish spice will work.
Well, I love, Amy, how you make it so fun to really bring your intentions forward and to kind of play with all of this. And I think it can be for anyone on the journey who's like, hey, I want to try this out, or others who have been maybe practicing for longer and just want to have new techniques, things to inspire them. So thank you for sharing that. And also, is there a great place for people who want to dive in further, maybe check out your other books as well to stay connected? Like, what's a good place for people to visit you?
You can find my website, amyleighmercree.com, AmyLeighmercree.com. And that's where you'll find all the books, all my sessions, all my classes. I have a membership program called Intuitive You that we're going to be launching later this year. That's going to be a lot of fun. That'll be up there. And you can find me on social media, especially Instagram, at Amy Leigh Mercree.
Well, we'll put all the links in the show notes, as well as a link to get the newest book by Amy. Amy, this has been such an interesting conversation. I'm so grateful you spent this time with me.
Me too. I'm so glad you asked. We had such a nice chat.
Thank you for joining me for today's episode of Live Well, Dream Big. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. And I want to invite you to take your next step toward living well and dreaming big by downloading the Live Well, Dream Big lifestyle book. It's the ultimate guide to becoming your best self and living life on your own terms. You can grab your complimentary copy by going to the link in the show notes or heading directly to iawpwellnesscoach.com/guide. That's iawpwellnesscoach.com/guide.